Welcome to the deep dive. You're here because you're keen to really understand and get a handle on stress and anxiety, and you've pointed us to some great material from Self-Sensei.
That's right.
Our goal today is basically to cut through the overwhelm, and pull out the crucial, actionable insights that will help you manage these pervasive experiences effectively.
Exactly. Think of it as your personal shortcut to feeling more in control.
Yeah, precisely.
And we're not just skimming the surface here. We're going to explore what stress and anxiety truly are, what sets them off, especially in our modern lives.
Which is a lot.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And how they show up, in our bodies and minds, and the real impact they can actually have. Then, most importantly, we'll equip you with practical, evidence-based techniques, psychological, physical, and lifestyle-related.
And we'll also touch on when maybe self-help isn't quite enough.
Absolutely. We'll clarify when reaching out for professional support becomes the wisest step. It's a comprehensive exploration designed specifically for you.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the foundation. Stress and anxiety. We often hear them, bundled together, but Self-Sensei suggests they're not quite the same thing. Can you sort of eliminate the key distinctions for us?
Absolutely. While they are deeply connected, stress and anxiety tend to arise from different places. Stress is often a direct response to an external trigger, like a specific demand or event.
Okay, like a deadline.
Exactly. A looming deadline, or maybe a challenging relationship issue. It's your body's immediate reaction, that sort of fight or flight response kicking in, fueled by hormones like adrenaline and cortisol.
Right.
Anxiety, on the other hand, it's more of an internal state. It's characterized by persistent, excessive worries that can linger even when the initial trigger is gone. It's that underlying feeling of unease, even when things seem outwardly calm.
So stress is more about reacting to something specific out there, whereas anxiety is more of an internal, persistent hum of worry, sometimes without a clear cause. Is that fair?
That's a great way to put it. Precisely. And while their origins differ, they often go hand in hand and share a lot of symptoms. Things like feeling irritable, tired, muscle tension, disrupted sleep.
Yeah, familiar stuff.
Right. And it's also helpful to distinguish between worry and anxiety. Worry can actually be productive sometimes, right, if it helps you solve a problem.
True.
But it becomes problematic when it's just repetitive and doesn't lead anywhere. You could almost see anxiety as what happens when that stress response doesn't switch off, even after the stressful event has passed. It becomes this, chronic state of hyper-alertness.
That clicks. So if you're stressed about a presentation at work, ideally once it's over, that stress should kind of fade.
Right.
But with anxiety, that feeling of unease might just stick around.
Exactly. That's a really good illustration. And understanding this distinction is key because it can guide how you manage these feelings.
How so?
Well, if it's a clear stressor, you might focus on tackling the problem directly, addressing the trigger. But with anxiety, you'll likely need to focus more on those internal regulation techniques we'll discuss later on.
Gotcha.
Now, it's really important to recognize when both stress and anxiety become problematic, when they feel overwhelming, become a constant presence, or start to really interfere with your everyday life.
Okay.
That constant activation of the stress response, it can really take a toll on your health over time. And anxiety becomes a real concern when it's excessive, hard to control, and starts to negatively impact your mood and how you function day to day.
So Sensei also mentions specific anxiety disorders like GAD, panic disorder, social anxiety. How do you know when what you're feeling might have crossed the line, when it might need more specialized attention than just self-help?
That's a really crucial question. The key indicators often lie in the intensity, how long it lasts, and the impact it has on your life. If worry becomes an almost daily thing, persists for, say, 6 months or more, and feels incredibly difficult to manage, that could suggest generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD.
Okay.
Think of panic disorder as those sudden, intense waves of fear, often with physical symptoms that seem to come out of nowhere.
Right, the really scary ones.
Exactly. And social anxiety is marked by a significant, often debilitating fear of social situations. The bottom line is, if these feelings are persistent, feel very intense, and are significantly disrupting your ability to go about your daily life and engage in things you normally would, It's definitely worth considering talking to a professional just to see if it's more than typical anxiety.
And it sounds like stress and anxiety can really feed into each other, creating a bit of a loop. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Prolonged stress can actually make you more susceptible to developing anxiety. When your body is in that heightened state for too long, it can almost become the new normal, leading to that persistent worry.
Okay. Conversely, if you're already someone who tends towards anxiety, you might perceive more situations as stressful, right?
Yeah.
Which then triggers that stress response more frequently. It becomes a real feedback cycle.
Something I found interesting is that self-sensei makes it clear that not all stress is bad. They introduce this idea of eustress versus distress. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yes, that's a great point. Eustress is that positive, motivating form of stress. Think of the excitement and focus you might feel before starting a new project that you're really passionate about.
Ah, okay, like good pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That pressure can actually sharpen your focus and enhance your performance. Distress, on the other hand, is the negative, overwhelming kind of stress that we're primarily looking to manage here.
Right.
The goal isn't to eliminate all stress, which isn't really possible or even desirable, actually, but to learn how to effectively handle distress and even maybe harness eustress to push you forward and contribute to personal growth. And it's so true that what feels incredibly stressful to one person might be something another person takes in stride. Self-sensei really emphasizes that the experience of stress is quite personal.
Exactly right. Your past experiences, the coping resources you have available, your own individual way of perceiving potential threats, it all plays a role.
Makes sense.
That personal nature of stress really underscores why those cognitive techniques we'll talk about later are so important, because how you interpret events has a massive impact on how you react to them.
Right.
And just to really solidify those differences between stress and anxiety, the table in Self-Sensei is a great summary. It highlights how stress often has that external trigger, tends to resolve when the trigger does, and is a reaction to a specific threat. Anxiety, in contrast, often comes from within, can be persistent, and is characterized by more general apprehension and worry. It's a useful distinction to keep in mind.
Okay, so we've established a solid foundation by understanding what stress and anxiety are and how they differ, sort of. Now let's dig into what actually sets them off. Self-sensei breaks it down into external triggers, which often lead to stress, and internal factors, which tend to be more connected to anxiety. Let's start with those external triggers. What are some of the common ones we face in our, well, modern lives?
Yeah, when we look at external triggers, many of them revolve around the demands and unexpected challenges of life. Work-related pressures are huge. Deadlines, heavy workloads, job insecurity, the stress of unemployment, even the significant life transition of retirement can all be major sources of stress.
Right.
Difficulties in family and relationships, such as arguments or the responsibilities of caregiving, also rank high. Financial problems, obviously. Health issues, whether it's your own health or someone you care about. And even major life events that are often seen as positive, like moving house, having a baby, getting married. Those can still contribute significantly.
That's true. Even good changes can be stressful.
Absolutely. And of course, we can't overlook adversity and trauma, things like discrimination, living through pandemics, natural disasters, and even just the cumulative effect of those small daily frustrations. They can really add up over time.
It strikes me that so many of those external triggers share a common thread, a feeling of being out of control, like you're at the mercy of deadlines or financial pressures or whatever it is.
That's a really insightful observation. That perceived lack of control is a fundamental underlying factor in many stressful situations.
Ah.
And that's why strategies that help you regain a sense of agency, like effective problem-solving skills or the time management techniques we'll get into, can be so incredibly valuable in managing stress that stems from these external factors.
Makes sense. Now, what about those internal factors that Self-Sensei highlights as being more closely linked to anxiety and anxiety disorders?
Right. With anxiety, particularly when it develops into a disorder, there's often a complex interplay of internal factors at play. Persistent and excessive worries, even when there isn't a clear external cause, or if the worry feels way out of proportion to the situation. That's a hallmark of anxiety.
Okay.
Cognitive and behavioral patterns also play a significant role. Things like negative thinking styles, where you might tend to jump to the worst-case scenario, catastrophizing.
Right, assuming the words will happen.
Exactly, or generalizing from a single negative experience. And unhelpful avoidance behaviors, too. Biological factors are also involved, differences in brain chemistry, brain function, even genetic predispositions that can make some individuals more susceptible.
Interesting.
Then there's what we call threat perception, basically, a tendency to interpret situations as more dangerous than they actually are, and personality traits, like being naturally timid or having a more negative outlook, past negative or traumatic experiences, especially during childhood, and broader social and environmental factors like chronic stress at work or school, social isolation, societal pressures, and all these can be significant contributing factors.
It sounds like the sheer volume and relentless pace of modern life itself can create this underlying chronic level of stress that essentially lowers our threshold, so we react more strongly to even minor triggers.
Absolutely. You've hit on a key point. Our bodies can almost start to interpret everyday tasks as potential threats, leading to this ongoing low-level activation of that fight or flight response.
Oh,
This chronic state of heightened arousal can indeed make you much more vulnerable to experiencing significant stress or anxiety in response to seemingly small things. And it's so important to remember that these stressors rarely occur in isolation.
what do you mean?
Well, financial stress can put a strain on relationships, right? Which
Yeah.
in turn can impact your physical health. Everything is interconnected,
Yeah.
which really underscores the need for a holistic approach that looks at addressing the root causes rather than just the surface symptoms.
So we have a better understanding of what stress and anxiety are and some of the common causes. Now, how do we actually recognize when we're experiencing them? Self-Sensei talks about physical, psychological, and behavioral symptoms. It sounds like there's quite a bit of overlap there.
There is significant overlap, yeah, which is why it can sometimes be challenging to distinguish between stress and anxiety based on symptoms alone.
Okay.
And as Self-Sensei wisely points out, many of the coping mechanisms can be effective for both. I like that heavy backpack analogy they use, how unmanaged stress can accumulate and eventually become a real burden.
Yeah, that resonates.
But let's break down some of those shared symptoms first. Emotionally, you might find yourself feeling more irritable, easily angered, overwhelmed by situations, or experiencing excessive worry.
Mm-hmm.
Cognitively, difficulty concentrating, memory problems, or that sensation of your mind just going completely blank. Those are common.
Ugh.
Physically, you might notice increased fatigue, muscle tension or pain, digestive issues, upset stomach, nausea, things like that, disruptions in your sleep patterns, frequent headaches, a racing heart or elevated blood pressure, increased sweating, trembling, or just a general sense of restlessness.
That's quite a list, and I can definitely relate to experiencing some of those at different times.
Yeah.
Now, are there certain symptoms that tend to be more strongly associated with stress specifically, according to Self-Sensei?
Yes, while there's that core overlap, some symptoms are often more prominent when you're dealing primarily with stress. Emotionally and cognitively, you might experience a noticeable lack of motivation or focus, feelings of sadness or even mild depression, more frequent memory lapses, or increased difficulty making decisions.
Okay.
Physically, changes in your sex drive, a higher susceptibility to getting sick because stress can weaken the immune system,
Right.
and that feeling of chest pain or a noticeably faster heartbeat can be more indicative of stress. And it's absolutely critical to emphasize any instance of chest pain, especially if it comes with other symptoms like shortness of breath or pain radiating elsewhere, needs immediate medical attention. Don't ignore that.
Absolutely crucial point.
Oh,
Okay.
Anthony.
What about behaviorally?
Behaviorally, with stress, you might observe things like increased use of substances, maybe drinking more or smoking more, changes in exercise habits, either doing way less or suddenly overdoing it, a
Wow.
tendency to withdraw socially, shifts in eating patterns, more or less, nervous habits like nail biting, skin picking, teeth grinding, or maybe just crying more easily.
And on the anxiety side of things, are there specific signs that Self-Sensei highlights that we should be paying attention to?
Definitely. With anxiety, particularly when it develops into an anxiety disorder, the cognitive and emotional symptoms often become more pervasive and intense. This includes persistent, excessive, and often uncontrollable worries that might not be tied to any specific stressor, and they can kind of jump from one concern to another. You might find yourself constantly overthinking worst-case scenarios, perceiving threats in situations that are objectively pretty safe, struggling with uncertainty, maybe a fear of making the wrong decision, and just generally feeling unable to let go of your worries.
Mm-hmm.
That pervasive sense of impending danger, panic, or doom is also a significant indicator of anxiety. And of course, panic attacks, those sudden, intense episodes of fear that come with very real and often frightening physical symptoms like shortness of breath, dizziness, racing heart, feeling like you're choking,
Mm-hmm.
those are a key sign.
Right.
Behaviorally, you might notice a pattern of avoiding situations or places that you associate with triggering your anxiety, like public spaces if you have agoraphobia, or social events with social anxiety.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting that in children and teenagers, anxiety can sometimes manifest differently, maybe as excessive worries about school performance, family safety, even being on time, along with maybe perfectionism and constantly seeking reassurance.
It's quite sobering to recognize just how deeply interconnected our mind and body are, with all these very real physical symptoms arising from what we often think of as just mental experiences.
Exactly. It's not just in your head.
And those behavioral symptoms really highlight how we sometimes try to cope with these feelings in ways that can actually make things worse in the long run, like the substance use you mentioned.
Precisely. Those behavioral symptoms like turning to substances or significant changes in eating habits are often maladaptive attempts to manage those uncomfortable emotional states. But as you said, they can often create new problems or exacerbate the existing ones.
So it's a cycle.
It often is.
Yeah.
Ultimately, all these symptoms, whether they manifest primarily physically, psychologically, or behaviorally, are important warning signs that something needs attention. Ignoring them can potentially lead to more serious health issues down the line.
So if we ignore these warning signs, what's the potential impact on our health and our daily lives? Self-Sensei paints a pretty concerning picture of what can happen when stress and anxiety go unmanaged.
It's true. The ripple effect of chronic, unmanaged stress and anxiety can be really significant, impacting both your physical and mental well-being, as well as your ability to function effectively in your daily life.
Okay, let's start with physical health.
Physically, we can see an increased risk of cardiovascular problems, things like high blood pressure, heart disease, even heart attack and stroke. Stress hormones can directly impair the healthy functioning of your cardiovascular system.
Wow.
Your immune system can also become weakened, making you more susceptible to infections and illnesses. Digestive issues like irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, and ulcers can arise or become more severe. There's also an increased risk of developing metabolic issues like obesity and type 2 diabetes.
Hmm.
Chronic pain conditions such as headaches and migraines, disruptions in your sleep patterns, and even effects on reproductive health. It really is a systemic impact that affects many interconnected physiological systems in your body.
And the mental and emotional toll sounds just as heavy, if not heavier sometimes.
It is. Unmanaged stress and anxiety significantly increase your risk of developing mood disorders like depression and other anxiety disorders, or they can worsen existing mental health conditions.
Right.
Cognitively, you might experience increased difficulty with concentration and memory, which can lead to reduced efficiency and productivity in your daily tasks. You might also find yourself losing motivation and the ability to experience enjoyment in things you once found pleasurable.
Yeah, that feeling of just nothing feels good anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Emotional dysregulation can become a constant struggle, with feelings of overwhelm, irritability, anger, or persistent sadness becoming dominant. There's also a heightened risk of developing substance use disorders as a way to try and cope with these difficult feelings.
A dangerous path.
Very. And in very severe cases, thoughts of self-harm can unfortunately arise. And as you pointed out earlier, those cognitive impacts, like impaired concentration, can actually hinder your ability to effectively problem solve and address the very stressors that are contributing to these issues. It's a tough cycle.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? It sounds like it really starts to affect every facet of our daily lives.
Absolutely. Unmanaged stress and anxiety can significantly impair your ability to function effectively at work or school, in your family life, and in your social interactions. You might find yourself starting to avoid activities you once enjoyed due to fear or anxiety.
Yeah.
In more severe cases, it can even become challenging to maintain stable employment. It can also put a significant strain on your relationships, potentially leading to social isolation, which in turn can worsen your overall condition.
So you lose your support system when you need it most.
Precisely. Ultimately, it can lead to a significantly diminished overall quality of life, leaving you feeling trapped and overwhelmed by your symptoms. And as Self-Sensei highlights, there's a real social cost involved as well. Impaired functioning and strained relationships can lead to a decrease in available social support, further isolating the individual and potentially exacerbating their difficulties. That really underscores the importance of both individual coping strategies and those vital supportive social networks that we'll be discussing later on.
This has been a really comprehensive and, frankly, quite eye-opening overview of what stress and anxiety are and the far-reaching impact they can have. It's a lot to absorb, but having this foundational understanding feels so important. Now, let's shift our focus to what we can actually do about it. Self-Sensei delves into a variety of evidence-based psychological approaches, and the first one up is mindfulness and meditation. This has become such a popular topic, but can you break down the core principles and explain how it actually helps us manage stress and anxiety?
Yeah, mindfulness and meditation have indeed garnered a lot of attention, and with good reason. There's a growing body of solid research supporting their benefits for stress reduction and overall well-being.
Okay.
At its heart, mindfulness meditation is about intentionally focusing your awareness on the present moment, but without any judgment. You're simply observing your thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and the world around you as they are, without trying to change them or analyze them.
So noticing.
Exactly. There are really two key components. First, attention, which is just directing your focus to your immediate experience. And second, acceptance, which is about observing those experiences without reacting to them or trying to suppress them.
So it's not about trying to achieve a completely blank mind, which has always felt like an impossible task to me, but more about just noticing whatever arises without getting carried away by it.
You've got it. It's about fundamentally shifting your relationship with your thoughts rather than trying to get rid of them altogether.
Okay.
There are several interconnected ways this helps. Mindfulness helps you consciously redirect your attention away from those automatic negative thought patterns. Constant worrying, replaying past events, and brings it back to what's happening right now.
Right here, right now.
Exactly. Interestingly, research has also shown that regular mindfulness practice can actually influence the structure and activity of certain brain regions involved in attention and emotional regulation.
Really?
Yeah. Which in turn can help to dial down your body's physiological stress response by bringing more balance to your nervous system. It also helps you to start seeing your thoughts as just fleeting mental events, not necessarily as facts or truths.
Like clouds passing by.
That's a common analogy, yes. It creates a kind of mental buffer that reduces their negative impact. And crucially, mindfulness cultivates important attitudes like non-judgment, patience, and acceptance towards your experiences. This can significantly reduce the intensity and impact of difficult thoughts and feelings. Often the very act of struggling against unpleasant feelings just makes them stronger.
That makes a lot of intuitive sense. So if we want to start incorporating mindfulness into our lives, what are some practical steps we can take? Self-Sensei seems to have some ideas.
Yeah, they provide some excellent starting points. You can begin by practicing simple everyday mindfulness, really paying attention to your senses during routine activities, consciously trying to be present in the moment, and practicing self-compassion towards yourself.
Like when you're drinking coffee.
Exactly. Really noticing the aroma, the warmth, the taste, even just taking a few moments to focus on the sensation of your breath when you notice negative thoughts arising can be a helpful initial step.
Okay.
For more structured practice, body scan meditations are great, where you bring your attention to different parts of your body without judgment. Sitting meditation, where you gently focus on your breath, acknowledging thoughts and returning to the breath. And even walking meditation, paying attention to the physical sensations of walking.
Walking meditation sounds interesting.
It can be very grounding. And as we mentioned earlier, there are numerous guided meditations available through apps and online platforms that can be particularly helpful for beginners.
Right. Lots of resources out there.
For sure. The key is to aim for consistency, even if it's just for 5 to 20 minutes each day. Remember, it's a skill that develops over time, so be patient with yourself. Think of it as building mental fitness, not a quick fix.
Consistency over duration. Got it. And what does the scientific research actually tell us about the benefits of mindfulness?
Yes.
Self-Sensei references quite a bit of evidence.
The scientific support for mindfulness is quite substantial and continues to grow. Numerous clinical trials and meta-analyses have demonstrated the effectiveness of mindfulness-based practices for reducing stress, anxiety, chronic pain, symptoms of depression, and even things like sleep disturbances and high blood pressure.
Wow, that's broad.
It is. For example, research has consistently shown that mindfulness interventions can lead to significant reductions in perceived stress and anxiety levels, as well as improvements in overall mood. The American Psychological Association also recognizes specific programs like MBSR and MBCT as evidence-based treatments for stress, anxiety, and depression, and suggests potential benefits for other conditions as well.
So real, measurable benefits.
Yes. The reported benefits often include a reduced sense of being overwhelmed, improved attention and focus, enhanced ability to regulate emotions, better sleep quality, relief from chronic pain for some, lowered blood pressure in some individuals, and an increased sense of self-awareness and emotional balance.
Those are some really impressive benefits. But Cell Sensei also touches on some important limitations and things to be mindful of. Pardon the pun. It sounds like mindfulness isn't universally positive for everyone.
That's a really critical point to understand. While mindfulness offers significant benefits for many, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution and in some cases can even lead to adverse effects.
Like what?
For instance, some individuals might experience increased feelings of anxiety or depression, dissociation, or even the reemergence of difficult or traumatic memories. This is a particularly important consideration for people with a history of trauma, like PTSD.
Why is that?
Because the intense internal focus can sometimes inadvertently trigger flashbacks, feelings of being overwhelmed or dissociation. It's also important to be aware that for individuals experiencing certain severe mental health conditions like acute psychosis or severe depression, mindfulness practices might feel overwhelming or could potentially exacerbate their symptoms.
Okay, that's serious.
It is, and the quality of instruction and guidance is also crucial. Trained and experienced teachers, especially in established programs like MBSR or MBCT, are equipped to provide essential support and make necessary adaptations that might be lacking in, say, unguided apps.
Right, you need someone who knows what they're doing.
Especially for vulnerable individuals, yes. And there are specific considerations when working with younger people, too. Research is still evolving there. And it might not be engaging or appropriate for all youth, potentially even harmful for at-risk adolescents if not done carefully.
So caution is needed.
Definitely. It's always a wise step to consult with a healthcare professional or a qualified mindfulness instructor before starting a practice, especially if you have any pre-existing mental health conditions or a history of trauma. Having a good understanding of these nuances is key to ensuring a safe and effective practice.
That's really important context to keep in mind. So while mindfulness can be incredibly valuable for many, it's not a universal cure-all, and careful consideration and qualified guidance are essential, especially for certain individuals. Now let's move on to another really influential psychological approach, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. We hear a lot about this as well. What are the core principles behind how CBT works to help with stress and anxiety?
Yes, CBT is a highly respected and very evidence-based form of therapy. Its central idea is that our thoughts have a really powerful influence on our emotions and behaviors.
Okay. Thoughts drive feelings and actions.
Pretty much. It suggests that many psychological problems are at least partly maintained by patterns of unhelpful or inaccurate thinking and learned unhelpful behaviors. It really emphasizes the interconnectedness of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. Negative thoughts can lead to feelings of distress and unhelpful behaviors, which in turn can often reinforce those negative thoughts. Creates a kind of vicious cycle.
Right, you get stuck.
Exactly. The main focus of CBT is on identifying these unhelpful patterns and learning more adaptive and effective ways of coping with the aim of relieving your symptoms and improving your overall functioning in your daily life.
So it's practical.
Very. It's generally present-focused and problem-oriented, meaning it primarily addresses current challenges and works towards practical improvement. It's also a collaborative process between the therapist and the individual, often involving a structured approach, a defined number of sessions, clear goals.
And it teaches you skills.
Yes, that's a key aspect. It's skills-based, empowering you to learn practical coping skills that you can then use independently, almost like mental fitness training that builds your resilience. Homework assignments are also common, designed to help you practice and integrate these new skills into your daily life.
So it's really about learning to recognize and then actively work to change those negative thought patterns that might be fueling the stress and anxiety we're experiencing.
Exactly. CBT employs a variety of specific techniques to achieve this. Psychoeducation is often a starting point, helping you understand the nature of stress and anxiety and how CBT works.
Learning about the problem first.
Right. Self-monitoring, like keeping a thought journal or diary, is a key tool for increasing your awareness of your thoughts, emotions, sensations, and behaviors in specific situations. Helps identify patterns and triggers.
Okay.
Then there's a core technique called cognitive restructuring. This is where you learn to identify those negative automatic thoughts and common cognitive distortions, thinking traps, like catastrophizing or overgeneralizing.
Like assuming one bad date means you'll be alone forever.
Exactly like that. And then you actively challenge these thoughts by examining the evidence, considering more balanced perspectives. Behavioral activation focuses on intentionally scheduling pleasant and meaningful activities to counteract low mood and withdrawal.
Get moving again.
Precisely. For anxiety specifically, exposure therapy is a very effective technique. It involves gradually and systematically confronting feared objects, situations, or sensations in a safe way without avoiding them.
Facing your fears, basically.
In a controlled way, yes. This helps you learn experientially that your feared outcomes are often unlikely, and that anxiety decreases with exposure. Problem-solving skills teach structured approaches to resolve life problems contributing to stress. Relaxation training, which we'll discuss more, addresses physical symptoms. And sometimes assertiveness and social skills training might be incorporated.
It sounds like a very active and hands-on approach.
Hmm.
Are there any specific CBT techniques that someone could start to use on their own, maybe without a therapist initially?
Yes, absolutely. Self-Sensei outlines several self-help CBT techniques that can be really beneficial. Keeping that thought journal, we mentioned situation, thoughts, emotions, and intensity behavior can be incredibly insightful.
Just writing it down helps.
Awareness is the first step. Learning to recognize your own common thinking traps is huge. Once you're aware, you can start to actively challenge your negative thoughts. Ask yourself, what's the evidence for this thought? Against it. Is there another way to look at this? What would I tell a friend?
Good questions.
If you're dealing with specific fears, you can try gradual exposure. Create a fear hierarchy, list things from least to most anxiety-provoking, and start exposing yourself to the milder items repeatedly until the anxiety lessens, then move up.
Taking small steps.
Yes. And if you've withdrawn from enjoyable activities, intentionally scheduling pleasant and meaningful activities back into your week, that's behavioral activation you can do yourself.
That's really encouraging to know that there are some practical tools we can start using right away. Now, what about the overall effectiveness of CBT? What does the research tell us about how well it works for managing stress and anxiety?
The scientific efficacy of CBT is extremely well established, supported by a vast amount of research. Numerous clinical trials, meta-analyses that consistently demonstrate its effectiveness for a wide range of conditions, including various anxiety disorders, depression, general stress.
So it really works.
The evidence is very strong. In many cases, CBT has been found to be as effective as or even more effective than other therapies or medication for certain conditions. Interestingly, internet-delivered CBT, ICBT, has also shown promising results.
Online therapy can work too.
Yeah, and even self-guided CBT can be beneficial for some outcomes. The advantages include teaching practical, transferable skills. It focuses on current problems and functioning. It's often relatively short-term, and it's empowering, helping you understand and change your own thoughts, feelings, behaviors. It's adaptable, available in different formats, and it aims to prevent relapse.
But just like with mindfulness, are there any limitations or things we should be aware of when considering CBT? It can't be perfect for everyone, right?
No, therapy is. And yes, it's important to be aware of limitations. CBT requires active participation and commitment. You need to be willing to attend sessions, do homework, practice the skills. It can also be time-consuming.
Takes effort.
Definitely. And initially, confronting difficult emotions and challenging negative thoughts can be uncomfortable. Exposure therapy involves facing anxiety short-term.
So it might feel worse before it feels better.
Sometimes, yes, that initial phase can be challenging. CBT might not be the most suitable approach for everyone. It can be difficult for individuals with very complex needs or significant cognitive impairments, maybe less effective for certain severe personality disorders.
Okay.
And while it touches on the past, its main focus is current problems, so it might not fully address deeper underlying causes like early trauma on its own. It's also primarily focused on individual change, so it might not directly tackle broader systemic or family issues.
Right, it doesn't fix everything outside of you.
Exactly. And for severe symptoms like severe depression with psychosis or acute suicidality, medication or more intensive treatment might be needed before or alongside CBT. Ultimately, effectiveness is influenced by things like your motivation, your preferences, and crucially, the relationship you have with your therapist. It's not one size fits all. Finding the right fit is important.
This has been incredibly helpful in understanding both the power and the nuances of CBT. We've covered some really influential psychological approaches. Now let's shift our attention to the incredible power of the body. Self-Sensei dedicates a section to physical and relaxation strategies. First up, the power of movement exercise as a natural stress reliever. We all know exercise is generally good for us, but how exactly does it combat stress and anxiety at a physiological and psychological level?
Yeah, exercise is indeed a remarkably potent and accessible tool for managing both stress and anxiety. It offered a wide array of benefits.
It's like what specifically?
Well, physiologically, physical activity stimulates the release of endorphins, those natural mood elevators in the brain,
Mm.
the runner's high feeling. It also helps your body manage the negative effects of stress better. Regular exercise can help regulate your cardiovascular system, improve digestion under pressure, enhance immune efficiency. It can lead to a lower resting heart rate, lower blood pressure over time, and helps your body process and flush out stress hormones more effectively.
So it makes your body more resilient to stress.
Exactly. And psychologically, engaging in physical activity can serve as a form of meditation in motion. It shifts your focus away from worries towards your body and breath, promotes calmness, increases energy and optimism, improves concentration.
It's like clearing your head.
Precisely. Over the long term, regular activity builds greater resilience, making you less reactive both physiologically and psychologically. It's like stress inoculation. And exciting research even suggests exercise can lead to positive changes in the brain itself, like increasing levels of BDNF, which supports brain cell health and cognitive function.
So it's not just about feeling good in the moment after a workout, but it's actually contributing to a longer-term resilience to stress and anxiety.
Exactly right. Regular physical activity is building that resilience over time. Now, Self-Sensei points out that a wide variety of exercise can be effective. Are there any particular types that stand out for their stress and anxiety reducing benefits?
Absolutely.
Right.
While almost any form of physical activity can be beneficial, aerobic exercise, things like brisk walking, jogging, cycling, swimming, is particularly well studied for its positive impact on mental health, getting your heart rate up.
Yeah. It's been shown to effectively decrease tension, elevate and stabilize mood, improve sleep, enhance self-esteem. Interestingly, even short bouts, maybe just 5 minutes, can have noticeable anti-anxiety effects.
Just 5 minutes, that's doable.
Right. Doing aerobic exercise a couple of times per week can significantly reduce perceived stress. For more substantial anxiety relief, moderate to high intensity, longer duration, and more frequent exercise tends to be most beneficial.
Okay. What about things like yoga?
Yoga is also highly recommended. It combines postures, breathing techniques, often meditation. It promotes relaxation, eases stress and anxiety. Hatha yoga, which is usually slower paced, is often a good starting point. Research suggests yoga may help lower cortisol, blood pressure, heart rate, maybe even increase GABA levels, which is calming.
So it sounds like a well-rounded approach might be ideal, incorporating some aerobic activity for that mood boost and stress reduction, alongside something like yoga for the mind-body connection and promoting relaxation.
That sounds like a very balanced and effective strategy. Yeah.
And what about recommendations for how much exercise we should be aiming for on a regular basis? It can sometimes feel overwhelming to think about hitting the gym every single day.
Yeah, it can feel daunting. Current guidelines generally recommend aiming for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic activity each week, or a combination.
Spread throughout the week.
Ideally, yes, spread it out. Plus, muscle strengthening activities at least 2 days a week. For greater benefits like weight management, aiming for more, maybe 300 plus minutes of moderate activity can be helpful.
Okay.
But the most important thing is consistency. And even breaking activity into shorter bouts counts. Several 10-minute walks throughout the day can be beneficial. Research shows even a 10-minute walk can elevate mood like a longer workout.
That's really encouraging. Makes it feel less all or nothing.
Totally. Self-Sensei offers practical tips for sticking with it. Set smart goals. Choose activities you actually enjoy. If it adds stress, it defeats the purpose.
Good point.
Find an exercise buddy. Vary your routine. Use distractions like music or podcasts. And be patient. It can take 4 to 8 weeks to feel more coordinated and for it to feel easier. Ultimately, find what fits your life and make it regular.
That's really encouraging to hear that even smaller chunks of movement throughout the day can be beneficial. It definitely makes it feel more manageable. Now let's shift our focus to some more immediate techniques for finding calm in the moment. Self-Sensei delves into deep breathing exercises. This seems like such a simple tool, but what's the science behind why it can be so effective for acute stress and anxiety?
Deep breathing is indeed one of the simplest, most accessible, and quickest ways to address acute stress and anxiety, and it has a direct influence on your body's physiology. It's pretty amazing,
How
actually.
does it work?
The science lies in its ability to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system. This signals to your body that you're safe and counteracts the effects of the fight or flight or freeze response.
So it just your body to chill out.
Basically, yes. Deep, slow breathing also ensures your brain gets enough oxygen, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which you need for clear thinking. Certain techniques, like a slow exhale or a brief pause, can even help increase CO2 slightly in the blood, which slows heart rate and further stimulates that calming parasympathetic system. Diaphragmatic breathing, breathing from the belly, is specifically linked to stress reduction and lower blood pressure.
So it's very direct and efficient way to communicate to your body and mind that it's okay to calm down.
Mm.
Self-Sensei provides some step-by-step guides for several common deep breathing techniques. Can you walk us through a couple of the most widely used ones?
Absolutely. Diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing is a great starting point. Find a comfortable position, sitting or lying down. Place one hand on your chest, the other on your belly. Inhale deeply and slowly through your nose, focusing on letting your belly rise while keeping your chest relatively still. Maybe count to 4. You can hold briefly, maybe for 2 seconds. Then exhale slowly, gently, through your mouth or nose, counting maybe 4 to 6. Make the exhale as long or longer than the inhale. Feel your belly fall. Pause briefly. Repeat for several minutes, maybe 5, 10 minutes, 1 to 4 times a day. Some research suggests 20, 30 minutes daily can significantly reduce stress.
Wow. Okay, what's another one?
Box breathing or 4-square breathing is popular. Sit upright, exhale fully. Then inhale slowly through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for 4. Exhale slowly for 4. Hold empty for 4. Repeat that cycle maybe at least 4 times.
Inhale, hold, exhale, hold, 4 counts each. Got it.
Exactly. Then there's alternate nostril breathing, Nadi Shodhana. Sit straight, left hand rests, right hand to your nose. Use your thumb to close the right nostril. Inhale through the left. Close the left nostril with your ring pinky finger. Hold briefly. Release thumb, exhale right, inhale right. Close right with thumb. Hold briefly. Release fingers, exhale left. That's 1 round. Continue for maybe up to 10 rounds. Pause if you feel lightheaded. It's cited for lowering stress, calming the mind, improving cardio health.
Sounds a bit more complex, but interesting.
It takes a little practice. Finally, the 4-7-8 breathing, the relaxing breath. Sit straight, tongue tip behind upper teeth. Exhale fully through the mouth. Make a whoosh sound. Close mouth. Inhale quietly through nose for 4. Hold breath for 7. Exhale fully through mouth. Whoosh sound for 8. That's 1 breath. Repeat up to 3 more times. It's often called a natural tranquilizer.
4, 7, 8.
Mm.
Okay, these sound like incredibly valuable techniques to have in our toolkit for those moments when we need to find some immediate calm. It's wonderful that they are so accessible and don't require any special equipment. Now, Self-Sensei also discusses progressive muscle relaxation, or PMR. What exactly is that, and how does it help us to release physical tension that often accompanies stress and anxiety?
Right. PMR is a technique developed by Dr. Edmund Jacobson that directly targets that physical tension. It involves systematically tensing specific muscle groups, holding for maybe 5-10 seconds while you inhale, and then consciously releasing that tension quickly, maybe for 10-20 seconds as you exhale. You move sequentially through different muscle groups.
Why does tensing help you relax? Seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But the mechanism is that by intentionally tensing and then releasing, you become much more aware of the difference between tension and relaxation in your body.
The contrast.
Exactly. Focusing on these sensations also anchors you in the present, like mindfulness. And this process helps induce the body's natural relaxation response, slowed breathing, lower blood pressure, slower heart rate, the opposite of the stress response.
Makes sense. Does it work?
Yes, PMR is effective for managing mental and physical stress, anxiety, even depression symptoms. It can help with tension headaches, migraines, TMJ pain, neck back pain, and it's recognized for helping with chronic insomnia. Research confirms its effectiveness, especially when combined with other therapies.
So it's essentially training your body to recognize and then consciously let go of that physical manifestation of stress and anxiety. Can you give us a quick overview of how someone might go about practicing PMR?
Sure. Find a quiet, comfortable, undisturbed place. Sit or lie down. Close your eyes if comfortable. Take a few slow, deep breaths. The general principle. Tense a muscle group as you inhale. 5-10 sec. Release quickly as you exhale, then relax and notice the feeling. 10-20 sec.
Don't tense too hard.
Right. Don't strain or cause pain. You can repeat if needed, maybe with less tension the second time. You might mentally say relax as you release.
What's a typical sequence?
You might start with hands, arms, fists, biceps, then forehead, face, eyebrows up, frown, clenched jaw, neck, shoulders, shrug up, tilt head back gently. Chest, abdomen, deep breath hold, tighten abs. Back, gentle arch if comfy. Legs, feet, tighten thighs, point flex toes.
Working your way down the body?
Pretty much. Afterward, stay still, enjoy the relaxation, repeat if needed. When finished, gently return awareness, move slowly.
That sounds like a very effective way to really connect with your body's tension and learn how to release it. Now let's explore another fascinating technique: guided imagery and visualization. This sounds like using the power of our imagination in a therapeutic way to promote relaxation and reduce stress.
Exactly. Guided imagery, or visualization, involves using your imagination to create vivid, multisensory mental images of peaceful, safe, relaxing places or scenarios. You actively direct your thoughts and engage your senses.
And the brain buys it.
Pretty much. Our brain and body often respond to imagined experiences almost as strongly as real ones. Calming imagery can activate similar neural pathways involved in relaxation, helping calm the sympathetic nervous system. It also directs attention away from stressors.
That's powerful. Is it effective?
Yes, it's found to be effective for stress, anxiety, depression, even pain management. Studies showed decreases in breathing and heart rate, pain alleviation, reduced anxiety. One study showed reduced chronic stress and improved mental health quality of life in college students. Some evidence suggests it might even improve immune function by reducing stress's impact. It can be particularly potent for anxiety, which often responds well to sensory-rich mental representations. There are different types, too, like safe space imagery for trauma survivors.
So it's like creating your own personal mental sanctuary where you can find peace and calm. How would someone go about practicing guided imagery effectively?
First, find that quiet, comfortable, undisturbed place. Minimize distractions. Close your eyes, take a few slow, deep breaths to relax. Then begin to consciously create your peaceful scene, real or imaginary. A beach, forest, garden, cozy room, whatever feels calming to you.
Then what?
Engage all your senses, make it vivid. What do you see? Colors, shapes, light, movement. What do you hear? Waves, birds, silence. What do you smell? Pines, sea air, flowers. What do you feel? Sun, breeze, grass, sand. Maybe even taste.
Really immerse yourself in it.
Exactly. Spend time there, feel the calm, peace, relaxation. Explore the details, deepen the positive feelings. If it's hard initially, there are many pre-recorded guided imagery scripts and audio recordings available on apps or online that can help guide you. The more vivid and sensory-rich, the more effective the relaxation response.
That sounds like a really lovely and accessible way to find some inner tranquility. Now, Cell Sensei also introduces a technique called autogenic training. This is a new one for me. Can you explain what it is and how it promotes deep relaxation?
Yeah, autogenic training, or AT, was developed by a German psychiatrist, Johannes Schultz. It's a self-regulation technique using mental exercises to induce deep relaxation by focusing attention on specific physiological sensations. It involves passive concentration and auto-suggestion, silently repeating formulas that promote feelings of heaviness and warmth in your limbs, and calm in your heart and breathing.
So you're telling your body how to feel.
In a way, yes. The principle is that your body physiologically responds to these internal suggestions. Imagining warmth can lead to vasodilation, increased skin temperature. Focusing on heaviness promotes muscle relaxation. It aims for the physiological opposite of the stress response, calming the autonomic nervous system. It also cultivates interoceptive awareness, noticing internal sensations. The passive concentration part, effortless allowing, is similar to mindfulness's non-striving.
That's fascinating. So it's about using the power of suggestion to influence your body's physical state and achieve deep relaxation. What kind of conditions has autogenic training been shown to be effective for?
Research suggests it can be effective for managing a range of stress-related conditions and improving well-being. It's shown to reduce anxiety and stress, improve mood, enhance coping. Applications include sleep disorders, general stress, burnout, various anxieties like phobias.
Is it well-researched?
While an earlier review noted some inconsistencies, more recent studies provide stronger support, often showing moderate effect sizes. In terms of safety, it's generally considered low risk. Some might feel a temporary initial increase in anxiety as awareness increases, but that's usually transient.
That's good to know. Could you give us a brief overview of some of the core exercises involved in autogenic training?
Yes, there are 6 standard exercises, and regular practice is key. You start in a quiet, comfortable position, eyes closed, maybe some calm breathing first. Then you silently repeat specific formulas like my right arm is heavy, maybe 3 to 6 times, focusing passively.
What are the 6 areas?
1. Heaviness for muscles, arms, legs. 2. Warmth for circulation, arms, legs. 3. Heart regulation. My heartbeat is calm and regular. 4. Breathing regulation. My breathing is calm and even, or it breathes me. 5. Abdominal warmth. My abdomen is soft and warm. 6. Forehead cooling. My forehead is cool and smooth.
So you cycle through these sensations.
Exactly. Then there's a specific way to terminate the session, if not practicing for sleep, involving stretching and deep breaths before opening your eyes. It's important to be patient. You might not feel the sensations immediately.
That sounds like a systematic approach to inducing deep relaxation. It's interesting how it focuses on these specific bodily sensations. Now let's move on to another technique that involves a more direct interaction with our physiology: biofeedback. Self-sensei introduces this as a way to gain more conscious control over our body's responses. Can you explain how it works?
Biofeedback is a fascinating technique. It uses technology, electronic sensors, to help you learn to gain conscious control over physiological functions we usually think of as involuntary heart rate, breathing, muscle tension, skin temperature, sweat activity, even brain waves.
How does seeing that help?
The sensors monitor these processes and give you real-time feedback, maybe visual or auditory signals. By observing this feedback, you become more aware of your internal states and how they change with thoughts, emotions, stress.
Ah, you see the connection.
Exactly. With practice, often guided by a therapist, you learn to consciously influence these responses using techniques like relaxation, breathing, or imagery to, say, lower your heart rate or reduce muscle tension. It makes the invisible visible, enhancing self-awareness and promoting self-regulation and relaxation.
That's a really interesting way to learn about and influence your body's automatic responses.
Yeah.
Self-sensei mentions a few different types of biofeedback that are relevant to stress and anxiety. Can you tell us a bit more about those?
Sure. Neurofeedback uses EEG to monitor brainwaves. It can help you learn to modify patterns, maybe increasing relaxing alpha waves and decreasing anxious beta waves. Used for chronic anxiety, it aims to retrain brain activity.
Train your brainwaves.
Yeah. Heart rate variability, or HRV biofeedback, focuses on increasing the variability between heartbeats, a sign of a more adaptable nervous system. Often achieved through paced breathing, it improves emotional regulation and reduces anxiety.
Yep.
EMG biofeedback measures muscle tension, typically in the forehead, jaw, neck, shoulders. Seeing or hearing the tension levels helps you learn to release it more effectively. Thermal biofeedback monitors skin temperature, usually fingers. Increased temperature indicates relaxation, which you can learn to influence through breathing or imagery.
So each type targets a different physiological manifestation of stress and anxiety, allowing for a more personalized approach. What does the research say about the effectiveness of biofeedback for these issues?
Research generally supports biofeedback as effective for reducing anxiety and stress by helping people gain control over their stress responses. Meta-analyses show it's often more effective than placebo, with significant benefits, especially when combined with therapies like CBT.
What are the benefits?
Improved stress management skills, enhanced emotional control, reduced physical tension and pain, better sleep, and a greater sense of empowerment through self-regulation skills. It has potential for long-term relief, maybe reducing medication reliance for some. It complements other therapies by providing objective data.
But you don't want to rely on the machine forever.
Right, exactly. The goal isn't reliance on equipment, but learning the internal skills to use in daily life without machines. The equipment is a learning tool, and the different types allow for a personalized approach based on how stress manifests for you.
This has been an incredibly insightful exploration of how we can harness the power of our bodies to manage stress and anxiety. From the simplest breathing techniques to more sophisticated approaches like biofeedback, it's empowering to realize the range of tools available to us. Now let's move on to the crucial role of our overall lifestyle in promoting sustained well-being. Self-sensei highlights several key areas here, starting with the fascinating connection between what we eat and how we feel, which is explored in the field of nutritional psychiatry. How does our diet actually impact our stress and anxiety levels?
Yeah, nutritional psychiatry is a really compelling and increasingly recognized field. It examines the profound impact of our diet on our mental health, stress, anxiety, depression included.
Food affects mood.
Absolutely. The food we eat doesn't just fuel our bodies. It significantly affects our brain function and emotional states. There's this intricate communication network between our gut bacteria and our brain, the gut-brain axis.
Gut-brain axis, I've heard of
Yep.
that.
Right. And it plays a surprisingly significant role in influencing our mood, cognition, and stress response. Self-Sensei highlights several key nutrients. Omega-3 fatty acids, crucial for brain cells, anti-inflammatory. B vitamins for energy, neurotransmitter synthesis, brain health. Magnesium nerve function, calming. Zinc involved in stress response, resilience. Probiotics and prebiotics for a healthy gut microbiome.
Because the gut talks to the brain.
Exactly. Antioxidants to combat brain inflammation, even tryptophan, the precursor to serotonin. Deficiencies in these can act as hidden stressors, impairing mood regulation and coping.
So it's not just about avoiding unhealthy foods, but also actively making sure we're incorporating nutrient-dense foods that specifically support our brain health.
Precisely. Self-Sensei points to beneficial dietary patterns like the Mediterranean diet or a general whole foods diet rich in these nutrients, anti-inflammatory. On the flip side, it emphasizes limiting or avoiding ultra-processed foods, refined sugars, excessive caffeine, and alcohol, as these can often worsen stress and anxiety.
Makes sense.
It's about creating a balanced, nutrient-dense pattern that nourishes both brain and body, enhancing resilience.
That makes so much sense. What about sleep? We all intuitively understand how important sleep is, but Self-Sensei really emphasizes the intricate connection between our sleep patterns and our experience of stress and anxiety.
Oh, absolutely fundamental. Adequate, high-quality sleep is crucial for physical and mental health. It's restoration time, vital for emotional regulation, cognition, stress management.
And it's a two-way street, right? Stress affects sleep, poor sleep affects stress.
Exactly. Poor sleep impacts mood irritability. Poor concentration makes you more vulnerable to stress and depression. REM sleep, in particular, is vital for emotional processing. Lack of it can hinder consolidating positive emotions, skewing things negative. Conversely, stress and anxiety are very common causes of sleep disturbances. Trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up feeling unrested, racing thoughts, tension interfere. It creates a vicious cycle. Stress disrupts sleep. Sleep deprivation worsens stress anxiety. There's also a strong link between poor sleep and depression, and PTSD often involves nightmares and hyperarousal.
So improving sleep is actually therapeutic for stress and anxiety.
Definitely. It contributes significantly to better mental health and stress management.
So prioritizing good sleep isn't just a nice to have. It's an active and crucial component of our overall emotional well-being. What are some of the best practices for good sleep hygiene that Self-Sensei recommends?
Yeah, good sleep hygiene is key. A consistent sleep schedule is foundational, same bedtime, same wake-up time, even on weekends. Helps regulate your body clock.
Even weekends. Ugh.
Yeah, ideally. A relaxing bedtime routine, 30-60 minutes before bed, warm bath, reading a physical book, calming music, gentle stretching, meditation, deep breathing signals. It's time to wind down.
Setting the stage for sleep.
Right. Optimize your sleep environment. Dark, quiet, cool, around 65 F or 18C, comfortable mattress pillows. Reserve the bed just for sleep and intimacy, no work, TV, eating in bed.
Keep the bed sacred.
Kind of, yeah. Limit blue light from screens, 30-60 minutes before bed. It suppresses melatonin. Watch diet and fluid intake in the evening. Avoid large, spicy meals close to bed. Limit fluids. Avoid caffeine afternoon, evening. Be cautious with alcohol. It disrupts sleep later.
Okay.
Regular physical activity and daylight exposure help too, but avoid intense workouts close to bed. Morning daylight reinforces your circadian rhythm. If you worry before bed, try a worry time earlier in the evening. Write things down. Limit naps to short ones early afternoon.
And if you just can't sleep,
Get out of bed after about 20 minutes. Do a quiet, relaxing activity in low light until sleepy, then return. Avoid associating bed with frustration. Adhering to these improves sleep quality and duration, enhancing well-being and stress management. If problems persist, consult a professional.
these are all really practical and actionable strategies for improving our sleep. Now, another crucial lifestyle factor that Self-Sensei emphasizes is the strength of our social connections and how social support can act as a significant buffer against stress and anxiety.
That's absolutely right. We're social creatures. Strong connections are vital for mental health and resilience. Social support acts as a powerful buffer in several ways.
How does that work?
Supportive relationships can alter how you perceive stress, makes it feel less threatening, more manageable. Knowing you have a network reduces the perceived severity and even lessens the physiological stress response.
Just knowing someone's there helps.
It really does. Having a safe space to express emotions, get empathy, understanding, encouragement, it validates feelings, reduces intensity. Support also provides advice, strategies, practical help.
Different kinds of help.
Exactly. Feeling loved, valued, belonging bolsters self-esteem, confidence, provides a safety net. Supportive relationships encourage healthy coping, discourage maladaptive ones, motivate positive changes, seeking help. And crucially, they combat isolation and loneliness, which are major stressors themselves. Quality time fosters belonging.
Yeah, loneliness is tough.
Research consistently links greater support from family, friends, partners, colleagues, community, even pets to better mental health, lower depression, anxiety, stress.
So nurturing our relationships isn't just a pleasant aspect of life. It's actually a fundamental pillar of our mental and emotional health.
What are some practical ways that self-sensei suggests we can cultivate and maintain strong social connections?
Self-sensei suggests actively nurturing existing relationships, regular contact, active listening. Seek new connections, clubs, classes, volunteering. Use digital tools, mindfully prioritize genuine interaction, maybe video calls over just texts.
Be open to receiving support. That can be hard sometimes. It can. Overcoming barriers, allowing vulnerability is important. Offer support to others too. Relationships are reciprocal. Address conflicts constructively. If social skills are a significant barrier, consider professional help. And formal support groups can provide peer support if personal networks are limited.
That's a great reminder of the importance of actively investing in our relationships. Finally, Self-Sensei touches on the role of time management as another crucial lifestyle adjustment that can contribute to a calmer and less stressful life.
Ah.
How does managing our time effectively help us to reduce stress and anxiety?
Effective time management is really about fostering a sense of control and preventing overwhelm, both big contributors to stress and anxiety. Poor management, missed deadlines, feeling rushed, piled up tasks creates pressure.
Yeah, that feeling of drowning in tasks.
Exactly. Good time management is linked to lower stress, higher productivity, greater well-being. It helps organize time, get more done in less time, meet deadlines consistently, overcome procrastination, feel less stressed overall. And crucially, it creates space for personal time, relaxation, self-care essential for mental health.
So it's about taking control of our time so that we have more bandwidth for the things that are important, including looking after our well-being. What are some of the effective time management techniques that Self-Sensei suggests for reducing stress?
Several key strategies. Planning and prioritization are fundamental. To-do lists, maybe the Eisenhower matrix, urgent important grid, identifying your most important tasks, MITs, daily, and doing them first. Use planning tools like calendars, apps, review and update plans.
Okay, get organized.
Set realistic goals, smart goals. Break down large tasks into smaller steps. Overcome procrastination with techniques like Pomodoro, work intervals breaks, time blocking, scheduling tasks, or eat the frog, do the hardest task first.
Name the frog. Interesting
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. Manage distractions. Identify time wasters. Avoid multitasking, focus on one thing. Learn to say no and delegate when possible, set boundaries. Incorporate breaks, short ones regularly, longer ones for meals, exercise, and actual time off vacations are essential.
Don't forget to rest.
Absolutely. And strive for balance between work and personal life. Set clear boundaries. Implementing these gives you control, reduces overwhelm, increases productivity, lowers stress anxiety, improves mental health and quality of life.
These are all incredibly valuable lifestyle adjustments that can really build a strong foundation for sustained well-being and make us more resilient to the inevitable stresses of life. Now, we've covered a vast amount of information on understanding and managing stress and anxiety ourselves, but Self-Sensei also addresses a really important question. When is it the right time to seek professional help? What are some of the key signs that self-help strategies might not be enough?
That's an absolutely crucial point. While self-help is great for everyday stress and mild-moderate anxiety, it might not be enough for more severe or persistent conditions, especially anxiety disorders. These go beyond occasional worry. They're persistent, maybe worsening, and interfere significantly with life.
So what are the warning signs?
Self-Sensei outlines several. When stress or anxiety significantly interferes with daily life, work, school, social life, relationships, when you're avoiding activities you used to enjoy.
And it stops you from living your life.
Exactly. If symptoms are severe, overwhelming, constant, always present without a clear trigger, or if they aren't responding to self-help, maybe even getting worse, time to consider professional support.
Okay.
Experiencing reactions that feel way out of proportion to the actual risk, or feeling unable to control your reaction. Frequent or unexpected panic attacks are a big sign. Significant distress, feeling exhausted or demoralized by the anxiety, worry, or physical symptoms.
What about mood and behavior changes?
Frequent or constant sadness, anxiety, irritability, frustration, loss of interest. Persistent sleep issues, too little much. Significant appetite eating changes. Unexplained aches, pains, headaches, stomach issues that don't improve. Ongoing difficulty concentrating, remembering, deciding. Persistent fatigue despite sleep. Feelings of guilt, worthlessness, helplessness.
And unhealthy coping.
Relying on alcohol or drug misuse is a clear sign professional support is needed. And critically, absolutely critical, seek immediate professional help if you are experiencing any thoughts of self-harm. Don't wait.
It's so important for our listeners to understand that seeking professional help when needed is a sign of strength and self-awareness, not a weakness. Mental health professionals have specialized knowledge and treatments.
Exactly. They can provide accurate diagnoses and effective support that can make a real difference when self-help isn't enough. It's about getting the right level of care.
Absolutely. Knowing when to reach out for professional support is a really key aspect of proactively navigating the waters of our own well-being.
So, to bring our deep dive to a close, we've journeyed through the intricacies of understanding stress and anxiety, explored a wide range of powerful psychological, physical, and lifestyle management techniques, and finally, addressed that crucial question of when and how to seek professional help.
And as you, our listener, set out with the goal of gaining knowledge that's both quick to grasp and deeply thorough, I truly hope this exploration of Self-Sensei's insights has provided you with a much clearer understanding and a collection of really actionable tools and perspectives.
Yeah, hopefully it feels less overwhelming now.
Right. Now, as you take a moment to reflect on everything we've covered today, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Consider which single small change, based on our conversation, you could realistically implement in your life starting today to begin more proactively managing your stress or anxiety.
It doesn't have to be huge.
Exactly. It doesn't need to be a monumental shift, just one conscious step towards cultivating greater well-being.